Quran burners face prosecution. Sweden cracks down. In a controversial move reflecting growing tensions between free speech and religious sensitivities, Swedish prosecutors have announced plans to put two men on trial for burning the Quran during public protests. The men, Salwan Momika and Salwan Najem, face charges of, quote, offense of agitation against ethnic or national groups for their actions, which have sparked outrage across the Muslim world and raised concerns about potential jihadist attacks. Senior prosecutor Anna Hankkio stated both men are prosecuted for having on these four occasions made statements and treated the Quran in a manner intended to express contempt for Muslims because of their faith. This legal action follows a series of Quran burning incidents in Sweden and neighboring Denmark that strained diplomatic relations with Muslim majority countries, even leading to violent protests at the Swedish Embassy in Baghdad, where the embassy was stormed twice, and the second time it was set on fire. The case has ignited a fierce debate, with free speech advocates arguing that such acts, however offensive, should be protected under Sweden's constitution. Adding to the complexity, one of the accused, Momika, himself is a refugee from Iraq. This decision comes amidst a complex background of rising anti immigrant sentiment in Europe, concerns over Islamic extremism, and debates about the integration of Muslim communities in secular Western societies. So, this is very interesting. Speaking of what we were talking about earlier, Armin, on the show, what's interesting is that one, can someone please explain to me? Because how it is translated in English media, Swedes, tell me if I'm wrong. How it's stated in English media about this is that they are prosecuted for, quote, okay, offense of agitation against ethnic or national group. Can someone explain to me how burning the Quran is an offense against an ethnic or national group? Please explain. Please explain. I would like to see how the prosecutors have squared that circle. I would like to see how the prosecutors have squared that circle, because it makes sense to me. So that's the first thing that needs to be addressed. Actually, before I dive into a couple of things, Armin, please, yeah, not a religious group. Not a religious group, because I think that would be a violation of Sweden's constitution. But it's an ethnic group or a national group. But this man himself is an ethnic minority within Sweden.
So, do we have in their constitution that you cannot ban any expression of views against an ideology, and that's why they're desperately trying to make this about ethnicity, so that it somehow the ban is more constitutional? I mean, yeah, the fact that the guy himself is Arab and Iraqi makes their claim. The guy is from Iraq. Like, how is he being hateful towards an ethnicity? It's insane. But are they trying to make it constitutional by acting like that this is against an ethnicity? Is that why they're doing it?
Look, I don't know anything about the Swedish constitution. I'm not going to pretend like I do. Let me be clear. But basically, that's my understanding.
Yeah, but by the way, I do want to acknowledge that Sweden is doing a real good work. That they're leading a way when it comes to taking steps against mass migration or illegal migration. So we congratulate them on that. However, this nonsense needs to be called out. Like us calling out Sweden here, that doesn't mean we're not acknowledging the other thing that they're doing over there, right? So I have a lot of points about. I don't know. Do you have any other points to make? Because
take it away.
Okay.
The only point I have to make is kind of at the end.
Because a lot of people say, like, Armin, you guys are being idiots. Okay, free speech, free speech. Burning Qurans will cause Muslims to be angry, and they're going to be violent, and then people will die, and then people like you who are advocating for burning Qurans or whatever like that, you are going to be responsible for their death.
How about we hold the people that committed the harm against individuals? Sorry, that immediately pissed me off. Let me shut up.
This is an insane point to make, because the reason why we have violence is the submission to the violence, is the fact that you make it work. If people are threatening you with violence and then you listen to them, if they intimidate you with violence and then you submit to their ways, what you are doing is you are signaling that violence is an effective method. Have you guys not heard the very famous term, we do not negotiate with terrorists? What do you think? That's just a chant? This is something people say that has no there's no practical reasons. Why do people say that we don't negotiate with terrorists? Right? Because you don't want to incentivize acts of terror. Why is it that when somebody comes and, let's say for example, someone comes and kidnaps your child and they ask you for money, why do the police insist not giving them the money? Why is it in many countries against the law for you to give them the money, even if that not giving the money ends up killing that child? Because even if yes, that child's life is important and their death should be avoided. But if somebody kidnaps a child and you pay the hostage takers money, now you're incentivizing this behavior. The proper response to an act of intimidation or violence is to do exactly what they are not asking you not to do. If a community of people comes and tells you that burning this book or saying a certain word or um, a cartoon is going to make them violent, then not drawing that cartoon is going to cause more violence. Not saying the words that they're asking you not to say is going to cause more violence. Not burning the Quran is promoting violence. If they say, well, I actually don't recommend burning, I recommend spitting on it, even pissing on it or tearing it apart, because I don't want to make. When we say burning, it's even more effective when it comes to insulting. It's as effective, right? Spit on the Quran, tear it apart, because I want to make sure that you don't accidentally burn yourself or something like that. It's much more simple. It's much more insulting, environmentally friendly, safe and secure, and simple and cheaper for you to just spit on the Quran. Here, hold on, let me. I'm going to demonstrate. This is my Quran, and let me show you how economic this process is, right? Because I have I use this Quran for insulting, and you can see that I haven't even finished Surah Baqarah, right? I haven't even finished Surah Baqarah. So if you want to burn the Quran, for you to be able to continue doing this, you have to buy so many Qurans, right? I have been doing this for such a long time. I haven't even finished one Quran. So
It's
it's a
more
lot more
effective to go
economical.
page by page because we don't want to
Yes,
be funding some Dawa center off of just how many Qurans.
right. So it's a lot more economically friendly, right? And it's a lot like if I wanted to burn this, I would like risk burning my house down, right? It's more insulting, right? Um, and yeah, so and also environmental friendly. No more carbon footprint, right? So take a Quran guide. Trigger alert for people who don't like to see this, right?
Well, you already
Spit
ripped
on
it
it.
out. Let's do it now.
Yeah, and I also, yeah, and then you go like this, right? Easy peasy. Okay. If you tell people not to do this, because Muslims are going to be violent, you're signaling to Muslims that violence works and they will
Yeah.
cause more violence, right? So
Yeah.
there's that point. Also, if you normalize this, if you allow people to burn the Quran, spit on the Quran, until to the point that it gets so widespread where Muslims are desensitized, right? You're actually going to get less burning of the Quran. Do you know why people don't burn the Bible? Because Christians have
No
become
one really gives a
desensitized.
shit.
Yes, Christians have been desensitized to acts of blasphemy, so people do not burn the Quran, the Bible. If you do this to the point where Muslims get more desensitized, there will be less point for us to insult the Quran, right? So wait,
Although there are some conservatives that are learning from violent Muslims being like, "Oh no, actually we shouldn't tolerate this. Why don't we?" Like
Yeah,
Candace Owen starts talking to like that. She's like, "No, we
because
need
you're
to get more
submitting.
extreme." I'm like, "Cuz they see
Yeah,
it
if
working."
you yes, exactly. Because they see us work, because they see governments and nation states are bending the knee. So some Christians are like, maybe we should be violent, right?
Yeah,
Maybe we
we
should be
want
like
them to bend the
more
knee.
like Muslims, right? Yeah. Also, another point is, um, this is burning the Quran, or not burn, insulting the Quran, tearing it apart, pissing on it, spitting on it, whatever, right? That's good for Muslims. Okay, let me make this point. Insulting the Quran is actually good for Muslims. Let me tell you how. Right. First of all, if right now a Muslim who is not used to insult on Islam gets uh, mentally harmed and very much stressed out when they experience such an act, if we normalize this to the point where Muslims, if you draw Muhammad, Muslims are like, meh, another idiot drawing Muhammad. Meh, another idiot spitting on the Quran. Well, that's great. We have desensitized them. We have thickened their skin. So they are now more mentally stable, and it's good for their own mental health that they are now a lot less sensitive, right?
You can
Another
take a
point,
fucking
another
joke.
reason, yes, another reason why insulting the Quran is good for Muslims, right? Is because if we insult the Quran to the point that we signal to the Muslim community that violence and intimidation doesn't work, and as a result would reduce violence and intimidation, the backlash of that eventual violence and intimidation to the Muslim community will be less. So by insulting the Quran, you're actually making it safer for the Muslim community. You're welcome. Last point I wanted to make is that any definition of hate speech, any definition of hate speech that you want to come up with, and based on that definition of that hate speech, ban certain speech or expression, would necessarily make you have to ban the Quran. There is no reasonable definition of hate speech that you could come up with, that you could ban, that would not lead you to the conclusion that this law should be applied to the Quran itself. Last point. That was my last
Um, you articulated that perfectly. I don't even know if I have anything left to say. And to be fair, you do see instances of some of that desensitization happening. And as much as things, we have these instances that pop off that are really bad, if you compare where we were in like the 1980s to now, we have seen change and progress in that regard. Um Maybe not as much as we would like or as fast as we would like, but there has been progress. Um it reminds me, I have a copy of this Charlie Hebdo, and in French it says, well, I don't know if you can see this, but it says like all this for this. This was I believe the first time that Charlie Hebdo republished the drawings of the prophet after the attack on their offices, and they republished these images in commemoration of the beginning of the trial against the attackers. And so that's what they mean when they say all this for this. Like all this pain, all this fear, all this suffering, all this loss for this, for for a drawing, for this, for an offense, for an offense,
It's
for an
absolutely fine.
offense. And so it's the same thing. We're all this, all this
Yeah.
for an offense. There are few
For
other
feelings.
offended feelings that lead to all this. These people. dead, you know?
Got
And
it.
it deserves to be called out. Um,
You highlighted something in the chat that I think is relevant by Nikki that I
what did I
think we should
highlight?
highlight.
Oh
You
yeah.
start.
So Nikki's been spamming the live chat saying, "Is burning the pride flag freedom of speech? What are your thoughts?" Yes,
Yes,
100%, 100%,
absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. In
I'm,
fact,
yeah.
I in fact, Nikki, to make this point on my Persian show on the Persian Atheist Republic channel, I I had a Quran, my own a copy of my own book, oh, my own picture, an LGBT flag, right? A picture of Reza Pahlavi, a
And
flag
the
of
Israeli
Israel.
flag.
Yeah, things that I admire and like, and I basically went through spitting on each and the U.S. Constitution, which I admire, right? So I spat on the LGBT flag and I tore it apart. The Israeli flag, the U.S. Constitution, my own picture. I spat on my own picture and tore it apart to show you, like, yeah, what happens? What happened to the LGBT movement by me spitting on it? Did it crumble? Did it crumble? What happened to Israel? Was it destroyed? Like if it, no, what happened to me? I spat. Like, do you know that many people who spit on their own picture? I spat on my own picture. I burned my own book to make a point. There's a video of me. This is a book. This is to make this point. This is my book, Why There Is No God. Okay, guys, it's free. You can buy it on Amazon, but there's also a free version of it, PDF version of it in the description if you want to download it for free. It's a bestseller on Amazon, right? To make this point, I burned my own book. So yeah, who cares? Who
Who
cares?
cares? Who cares? You know, and I like
Right.
this comment from John. This isn't freedom of expression. This is strength of freedom of expression. As an LGBT person, if there's anyone coming forward saying that we should like ban hate speech and that we shouldn't allow people to burn the pride flag, I would come out in strong opposition to it. You know why? Because I know that my community is stronger than one person wanting to burn a flag. Who gives a fuck? Like it's so much stronger than that. If you have legitimate insecurity over this kind of thing, I think that says more about you. Like, who cares? Um,
Right.
this is funny. Daniel was saying, okay, Armin just like spitting on things. This is clearly sexual. So what if it is?
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, if it was, I wouldn't be ashamed of it. It would be my kink. If it was, like, I don't know why you guys, why you fight, guys. Is this an insult? Okay, I would be if spitting was my kink, I would be proudly enjoy it without any shame. If it was,
hmm
no kink
Um,
shaming here.
yeah, come on. But Armin,
By the way, for people who have spitting as a kink shaming, please make sure it's hygienic. Please make sure you're not spreading viruses, please. Okay, like make sure you're doing it responsibly. Every time I think about that, I'm like, oh my god. Like I'm hoping these people during the corona stuff, they would like stopped enjoying their kink for at least two
I have a story
years.
about that actually. Um,
Right.
dude, dude.
Right.
But let me
It
let
is.
me not talk about some stuff. Um,
Mm.
so
People are saying, please no. Yeah.
Unicorn is saying stoners love the Bible. They use it for multi-purpose. Do not smoke the Bible, okay? The ink
Yeah.
is bad
Oh,
for you. Don't do it. It's bad. It's bad for you. Have I had to do it in a pinch? Yes. Okay, but it was a necessity, okay?
yeah. No, guys, do
Don't do
not
it though.
burn pages. Yeah, yeah. The ink, smoking the ink from the Bible is really bad for you.
It's bad for you. Um Oh, there's something else I wanted to say. Interesting point, just when we're on this topic, how we were talking about earlier, how the laws around not deporting people if you believe that they will be tortured where you send them back. So that's actually true of one of the guys who is in charge of, or the main leader of this thing, Salwan Momika. My understanding is that they found him to have lied on his application processes, but they can't deport him because they think he'll be deported in Iraq. Excuse me, tortured in Iraq. What do you think about that, Armin?
Well, somebody, one specific case, well, they didn't send him back because they thought that they would be tortured if they sent him back to Iraq. I mean, again, I'm not going. Here's the thing: I'm not going to be commenting on individual cases, right? Because first of all, they're complicated. I don't know the entirety of the case, and even if I did, I'm not a legal expert to know the nuances of what you could do and what you could get away with, right? What we're talking about is generally, right? We want to see laws changing where more deportation are possible. Are there going to be unique cases where even with the laws of change, deportation would not be possible? Yes. But rather than talking about individual cases, we have to look at like much larger numbers, right? We want to see deportations in thousands rather than in tens of, in numbers like 28, 30, 50. We want to see deportations in the numbers of being thousands. Whatever it takes to get there, get us there. And if one individual case, you're like, oh, what about this case? I don't know about that individual case. That's not the issue. You just get the numbers to thousands, whatever it takes legally.
Which actually reminds me, that kind of evolving framework, particularly in Germany, is of interest to me. So if you guys see news stories about how these laws are being changed and what action is being taken, please send it to us via our Discord. Link is in the description. We have an entire channel on our Discord dedicated to suggestions for this news show. So please send it to me so I can make sure to stay informed, particularly for our German compatriots. Um, okay, so let's go to the next story.
Wait, we have two more super chats.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Um, Fedagan is saying, "Love your work, sharing. Good September." That's right. Happy September
Thank
to
you.
everyone.
Guys, Fedek, not thank you not just for the super chat, but also very like really, really thank you for sharing. We do need people sharing our video. I mean, thank you for the super chat, but guys, people who do not want to support us financially, sharing our channel, recommending it to other people is such a great way of supporting this channel. It makes a huge difference. So please go ahead and do that. Recommend us,
Mhm.
unless it's not safe. Don't do it.
Um, yeah, Arthur is suggesting DW in English. I do like DW a lot, but let me know if people think they have a bias. Um, Carl Schletter gave a super chat. Thank you, Carl, saying blasphemy is not about emotions, but about power.
Well, I mean,
I think you mean blasphemy
it's
law. Sorry,
well,
go ahead.
well, no, blasphemy itself is about power, but it's not an either or. Okay, blasphemy is about power in places where you have the law in your favor. Then it's about you use the law to enforce that power. In places where you are the minority, in the way to exert that power is through expression of anger and emotion, right? So being a crybaby is actually weaponized, so it is about emotions, right? So blasphemy is about uh, obtaining power through expressing emotions. So it's not either or, it's both.
Mhm. Um, and one thing that I've been following when it comes to these Quran burnings in Sweden and Denmark is essentially how these instances have been utilized and weaponized by Russian propaganda systems. Um, especially in their information campaigns within Arabic speaking networks.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.